Hello, I'm Richard Raffan. This is another of the Four Ways videos in which four of us, Sam Angelo, Mike Peace, Tomislav Tomašić and myself, each tackle the same problem, and we post our efforts on the first of each month. Now this time Tomislav decided that we should make a box which goes when you open it, and so that's what you're going to see in this video. The box which I've just popped in the intro is this one. I made it I made it 21 years ago for the box video I made with Taunton Press, turning boxes with Richard Raffan. And it's warped very slightly, but I think to get a really nice pop suction fit you need a fairly long flange, and the fit is very much what I've got on this box. So I want this to be cylindrical, this flange here, fitting over a very slight dome. Now I modify that slightly by just sanding in there a little harder, so that when this slides over, in fact the whole thing will then spin when the lid's right on, but I still have the suction fit. I'm going to be using this bit of hewn pine. I've chosen it because it has a slight problem probably in lining up the grain. It's quite a nice flashy bit of grain with a bit of fiddle back here, but there's also a split just up there which I'm going to have to cope with. It is, and I have to get rid of that first too, it is about 75 millimeters diameter, which is 3 inches. So that is going into some shark jaws, and I use shark jaws just because they're much more useful than the standard jaws. In fact, I don't use any standard jaws at all these days. So just going to get rid of this with a 1/2 inch spindle gouge. Now this will be the bottom of the box, so the less I have to do later the better. That's pretty smooth and it's undercut. This is undulating very slightly. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch skewed chisel. Let's use a peeling cut. That will not be the final diameter. I'm just going to put a very small little shoulder in there. That will just make it easier to true it up later. Oh, and I hope this is going to fit into the chuck. I haven't actually checked that. It will. Good. So as I put it in, there's just that little ridge which I can feel the jaws kind of nudging up against. That should go in fairly smooth, fairly accurately. Get there eventually. That's usually goes in a bit faster than that. Right, next thing to do is to get rid of the bit I don't want, which is the split. And I'm going to use a peeling cut just to get rid of that. And I also need to get rid of the little hole at the top. You don't want to discover that just when you think you've finished the lid. Right on its side at the end, so the nose of the tool goes across center. Still a split. That's not very good news. And at the end of that last little cut was what sounded like a chunk coming out, and there it is. That's the bad news. The good news is that the split's gone. So my lid is going to be somewhere up in here. I can leave that for the moment. I need some way of gripping this, what will be the lid, so we'll just put the shoulder in there. And the lid will be coming down to about that kind of diameter. Which is a wee bit disappointing, but I can cope with that. So I'll take a parting cut and have quite a high lid and low base. That's the base section. And having cleaned off the bottom, that's much rougher with the parting cut, therefore I know which is the bottom of the blank. Right, this now goes into here. Possibly I might need a smaller chuck, we'll see. Nope, that's going to go in quite nicely. So that is what I have to play with for material. Next thing is just to face off the front here, and I want that slightly concave. I feel happier doing that with a gouge than I do with a skew. I'm going to use the skew side just to clean that up, and a little peeling cut just to get rid of the torn grain at the top. Now, next thing is to get hollowing. I'll be back hollowing with the 1/2" spindle gouge, the main feature of which this has to be a full curve to make this cut, and it helps to take a little bit of the bevel shoulder away just there. The rest starts with the tool when it's on its side, the point's at centre, into the middle and out the other side. Now I've got to remember I've got a shoulder here, say the top narrow, so I only really want to come out to about there, and I'm going to use a 1/2" square end scraper instead of only going out to there. I've gone a bit deeper. I want something here at least 1/2 inch deep, maybe a bit longer. The longer the flange, the easier it's going to be to make the lid a suction fit, and also to get the pop sound. And very important to get this as a cylinder. That's a very nice clean cut. That's a relief. So internal calipers with a screw here, so that you can tell if it's wider at the back. You can squeeze them in and pull them out. Now what I want as I come out is just a nice even drag, which I'm not getting as I pull these out. So they're actually very slightly wider at the back, so I let that out, and they sprung, and that's a really it's about 1/2 millimeter difference. So the outside, the inside is just there, so there's almost nothing to take off. So I need to take half that teeny little bit on the outside and nothing at the back. And the easiest way to do it really is just to move the side of the tool in there. Now the rest needs to be high enough that only the bevel side is in contact with the wood. That did not produce a shaving, so I'm just going to hone the top of the tool. It's a fairly coarse hone, this one. I don't know what it is, but it's coarse. So I get the corner of the tool into the corner I've cut. There, and then ease the tool around and then measure again. This can be pretty tedious and time consuming, but it's worth the effort because it saves you a lot of trouble later. Right, now that's a cylinder, I can feel that, and it's slightly tighter at the back. So this time I just go in, and all I want is a bit of dust off kind of the first 4 millimeters or so, just over 1/8 of an inch. Just like that. Done. I try not to sand the flange any more than I have to, because that distorts the fit. It takes it away from completely round. Next is to get into the end grain. This is a fairly thick tool, it's 9 millimeters thick, 3/4 of an inch, so the rest comes down. So I want it tilted down on the end grain, but once I'm away from the end grain, I can drop the handle and tilt the tool up a bit and get a shear cut. I can still see the hint of a line in there from my back hollowing, and just check how we're going for depth. I've got another 1/2 inch to play with. Now at this stage I'm still not sure what I'm going to do on the outside, but I have in mind as this being the smallest of one of a number of boxes in a group. So what I want is a small box with attitude, where I'm thinking about it. I need to get rid of that little ridge, and I find the best way to do that, most accurate, is just to use the bevel side. That's fine. And I'm going to keep all that, or I won't keep all of it, I'll keep most of that thickness for the moment. The inner diameter of that flange is dictated by what's inside the jaws. So I can now sand that with probably 320 will be more than enough. That's the blue. Fold it in 3, even though it's a very narrow piece, and that means I've got rough to smooth on the abrasive, just easier to handle. And the hue and pine is fairly waxy. It can be. Good, that came very nicely off the tool. Whereas that has a small line which yes, you can see. I need to get rid of that. So what I'm aiming to do is just take this tool down. I don't really want to do this. I just need to go in and just take a section off. Basically I'm cutting the flange again. And watching what's happening at about 4 o'clock. Off. often say, nothing more boring than when a demo when everything goes right. This is what happens when you have things like that. Okay, that's an even. Oh, this is an even drag. Yeah, I think that's okay. That's okay. Good. So we touch that with a bit of 320. I think it's 320, 320 or 360. 320. Right, so that is undercut. All this is going to get is beeswax. So there's a lump of beeswax. There's a bit of dust in there which will probably come out with the wax. The sock. Sock impregnated with more wax. So right, so there's just a little bit building up in that corner. Now again, I can see it about 4 o'clock, I can see it melting out. So that's the inside done. And had I thought a bit more ahead, I would have, yes, just had a smaller grip so I could get into more of the lid. I'd like to be able to feel the lid as I go, so we'll just grip that very, very lightly. Stick another foot on here. Just a little shoulder. Right, now I can feel where I'm going. Should have measured that before I did the sanding and polishing, so I didn't leave a pencil mark, so just do it the other way up. Okay, so I've got enough there to leave a little kind of finial on the top, and I think I'm just going to take this down. I had a little bit more to play with than I thought. Maybe I could have gone out another 2 or 3 millimeters. We'll just come back down to here. Peeling cut to get rid of that. And I'm a bit nervous of even using the gouge here because I lost that chunk earlier on. So hence the peeling cuts. Now at the join, whatever happens at the join, there's a chamfer or a little bead, so I'm going to just put a little chamfer on here. Take the tool through an arc. Doesn't feel fantastic. Oh, there's a teeny little knot or something there. That's, I know, the little bit of grain is just picked out there where the high figure is. So I'm going to get rid of that by using the bevel side. Just drop the handle and take off fine dust. Feels okay. So that is the lid section done. Now I can loosely grip that up in here. Not too loose, don't want it to come out, but just enough to get the bulk of the outside done. The next chance I have to do the outside is when it's jammed on the base, so it's better to hold it in the chuck. It's running out of whack a bit, but all I want to do is get this roughed out. So that's to there. Now a base. So come all the way out again. I've still got that little shoulder, if you remember, and I can find the same teeth marks, although not necessarily the same jaws, but it'll be true enough. And the next thing is to establish the diameter this lid fits on. If you just start hollowing, then it's very easy to hollow too much. You end up with a hole you can fit the lid in, which is not the idea. Kind of light burnish mark there. So peel down somewhere near the right diameter. Clean that up. So, still doesn't fit. This is a slight taper. Make that straight, cylindrical, and then cut another taper. Where it rubs, which is just there, is where it fits. And that's all I need to know at the moment. And I can lengthen the flange so it's the same as that inside the box, which is about here. In this case, we're going to take that down a little bit more, so I get an idea of where the grain's going to go with the high figure I have there. And I think that's going to, oh, there's an odd knot there. Otherwise it's all pretty bland. I think I'll be fine with that. Now what I do have to think about is what kind of bizarre little box I might like at the bottom, and just going to come down, just leave that on at the moment. I need to know, quite like the idea of trying to have a totally different shape to anything I've tried before here. Yes, this could be interesting. Get that off and just hollow out the inside. Now I'm going to be going down and probably widening it a bit at the bottom. This is going to be rechucked later, so it pays to go straight in or back very slightly, anything but a catenary curve. You do not want it tapering in, because that makes it really difficult to chuck up at the next stage. Again, you think this is looking rather like an old style inkwell. I learnt to write using a nib pen. dipped into ink, and no, I don't think that's going to be the way to go. So I'll just find out where the depth is going to be. Magnets, and I can go to about there. Thinking here, I think the base will be slightly wider, but not this wide, but it would be nice possibly just to have it, when you go in, to have it widening out and rounded inside, so I'm going to do that. Just hope that one fits in. Yeah, I'm down to the right depth, so I can use this tool. This is very much something you have to feel. Tool's a bit horizontal at the moment, so that can come up. And I should be able to get in, yeah, just a little bit round into the corner there. And go back from the top. No point in trying to look and see what you're doing, because if you're cutting anything, the shavings are coming out. I am going to need a smaller tool than that, and I don't have a half inch one. I'll be back. Right, I'm back with the McNaughton undercutter. It's not my preferred tool for the job, because I've got to move the rest back because of the swan neck, you know, to prevent the tool grabbing too much. So just a question of reaching in under there. I suppose it will give me a little bit more of an undercut. I was tempted to make a tool or regrind one of my half-inch scrapers. Right, so just feeling for where the bumps are. Feel where there's a little lump in the middle. Right. I've got a smooth curve, but I do have a bit of a lump, kind of pimple in the middle, so that I will look at, and I can get some light in there. I'll be fine. So centre is in there, and that's where the lump is. I can more feel it with the pencil than anything else. So it's just a question of bringing the handle, dropping the handle to pivot the edge through the centre. Then once have I gone through the centre, then I can move off to the left. Having got rid of that, I've then got to come back in with the undercutter. Oh, it just sounds so harsh by comparison. Yeah, changing tools a bit difficult there. Right, so there's a very irritating little line in there. And I think that is going to go with, we'll try a bit of 180. Failing that, it's going to be something heavier. .180 grit. Going to be something heavier. The trouble with using a heavier grit is it's going to leave heavier scratch marks, and you're then going to have to get rid of them. It just makes the whole job more difficult. Maybe I should have made myself a half-inch round nose scraper, which is what I need. Doesn't want to go. So, now this is not unusual in turning circles. Now, this is a 3/8 9mm thick tool. I'm just wondering if I've got a thinner one. I'm going to go with a 1/4 inch tool. It's only about 1/8 inch thick. I just want to get rid of, I'm just going to work on the little lines which I can see at about 3 o'clock. Now it's a bit ridgy. It's just a question of being able to move the tool smoothly through the curve. Got it. That's a relief. Right, 180 grit. Now I can probably reduce this a little bit, or can I? No, I've got to come down. Beginning, I've still got to fit the lid. Then coming out, I'm going to round over the inner lip. Just makes it more comfortable when you come to feel in there. .240. And the 320. Probably buy some wax, beeswax. That's fine, good. The next stage is to get the lid jammed on tightly so I can shape the outside. Looking at this, just going to get I'll get the lid on tight first, I think. So we had, I rather lost it. I just eased the lid on. There's a slight burnish where it fits. That's exactly where it fits. So I'm just going to use, this skew is curved very slightly, which means that I can just use the nose of it to and drift the nose in on that burnish line. And then when I get to the end, the bevel side can clean up that shoulder. Say crunching is good, the pistol shot is not. Sudden cracking noise means cracking. A split lid. I turn this because it's more accurate than sanding. Right, so that goes on. Now I've got to start thinking about the overall shape, and don't really like what I've got there. Take it down a bit. Thinking of a little kind of almost like a castle, somewhere between a castle and a church, I suppose. That did not sound good for a suction fit, for a pop fit. So I can lose a little bit of that and change that, and I can take a little bit out of there. Yes. I forgot to check the inside thickness. Right, I can't go too far out, or too far in. So I'm going to flare this out. Now at the join I want a V-groove or a bead or something, just so when the movement does take place it's less obvious. I first started putting a groove in the boxes when I was doing round boxes, and I put the groove in so I could get a knife in and prise the two bits apart when the fit was too tight. Now that I can see a gap in there, a slight gap, which means that this is too long. So to take that off, I'm just going to work on the end. You don't cut across because that'll splinter the inside. Should do it. Right, now I've got enough to play with there that I can take this down a bit. As I do that, I'm suddenly starting to get a whole different idea of the kind of shape I might do. Just see how the grain lines up. Not ideal, but it could be worse. So I'm actually going to take away that little chamfer. Squeeze that tool gently round, that doesn't feel too bad. So now I want to follow this line through to the other one, to the line below. I'm beginning to have eyesight problems here. I can't do what I used to be able to. Right, I think that will be, I'll just put another, make that slightly broader. So it's going to be a band rather than a bead. Now, I don't mind the overall shape of that, and I think if I come across here, and then we'll have a little kind of scallop on the top, that should look fine. Long point. The only bit of the skew rubbing the wood is the bevel side. Across the bottom. Probably do this with the big ones, the 1/2 inch. So I can rub the bevel on the bit I've just cut up there to start with. That is a bit loose, that curve, so just do that again. Actually, what I think I might do is just have a little bit of a reverse curve in there, a little bit of an ogee, in order to accentuate this corner. Shear straight the end grain. Okay, so that's the lid can now be sanded. It's 350 grit. I'll keep interacting with the camera. That will move it much easier. So that was 240, this is the 320. Yes, maybe I will round that over a little bit with paper. So now this gets fine fitted, so I can see where it's, feel where it's fitting. I'm not optimistic about a pop at the moment. Get a suction fit, but I don't know about the pop. I'm not sure I've got enough volume of air in there for a pop. I might have to do another box. Oh, I didn't get the wax polished in there quite enough. Well, that's a very nice fit. And it's not going to pop. Now, if this lid's loose enough that I can't sand the top, so the trick here is to build up a layer of sticky wax. Stick the lid on. And just build up enough heat for it to melt in. So that builds up on the rim there, so wipe that off while it's still warm. So that is the lid fit done. Now I need to turn the whole thing round and turn off the base. And there is, as you can see, an awful lot of base. So I'll just try and grip that with the absolute minimum and turn most of that away. So I always want to keep little bits of wood like this from other jobs, because they're very useful to make chucks, and the base is going to be fitted to this just like I fitted the lid to the base. So steep taper to start with. Rubs about there. And you want a nice, the trued rim coming up against the trued face there, and that just keeps it all much better shape, and it's going to be running true. Now this is no minimal pressure against the wood here. Not a comfortable thing to do. If you're going to bring up a tail center, then you need a block, but you can't put very much pressure on the end grain because it's end grain, it's not very thick, and you'll go through. So I'm just going to drag the point, squeeze that along the wrist. I've got quite a curve on this skew, so I can do a peeling cut in there. And watching what's happening up on the upper horizon. chamfer there. That was undercut at the beginning, so that's something I don't have to do now. I keep the rest at an angle here because if it's round here, it's just much more difficult to hold the tool. I can put lines in the middle with the point, and I can do a little recess with the heel. Shouldn't have done that, I can't see properly. Right, I think that's all right. So, the 240 grit. Don't do the bottom at this stage because I'm going to sign it on the bottom. At the moment that's going to be slightly tight on the base because the base is still hot, and I'm not going to get a big compared to the other. It's not very good as a pop, but I'm very happy with it as a little box. So here I am a couple of days later, and the box has tightened up, which does happen on occasion. It's quite stiff. I mean, a lot of people regard it as a very good fit, but in fact, if you haven't got fairly strong hands, you probably wouldn't get the lid off, and when you do, pills or whatever's inside go everywhere. So this needs loosening up, and I'll just show you how to do that. So to attend to the flange, I need to get it back onto a chuck, and I've got the original chuck I had for the base, and it doesn't matter if it goes in dead accurately, I can always true it up. What I do want is to have this shoulder smaller than that shoulder. At the moment it all kind of lines up. I'll just take that down a little bit. And now I can sand that. I don't need very much, just tear off a little strip. This is 320. And there's a fair amount of beeswax on there. And that's all it needed. But I still haven't got the pop. But I do have a very nice little suction fit box. Just need to wax that. So I've got the sock full of wax. And that's done.